They came together to seek further cooperation amongst member nations and increase their economic and political standing. Renowned Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill in 2001 claimed that by 2050, the four countries formerly known as BRIC would come to dominate the global economy. And by 2010, another country joined the bloc, thereby adding to the acronym BRIC. In the course of this interview, you will get to know the countries I'm talking about. That's if you don't already know. The topic on the table today is the BRICS agenda. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Olugbenro. My guest is Professor Olugbenro Oyekan, Dean of International School of Management, Lagos. So please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Until then, please enjoy this ride with us. Thank you so much, Professor, for coming on the show. It's nice having you.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Okay, so the topic is the BRICS agenda. Please explain in detail how BRICS came about and the countries involved.
Oh, well, what we now know as BRICS today, as you said, started as BRIC. It was Goldman Sachs that formed an investment vehicle, and it was based on the progress of the economies of the four emerging countries. And based on the growth of those economies, an investment vehicle was formed, and then people were now investing in it. And those four countries, Russia, India, and then China, but was at a later time that South Africa was added to it to make it BRICS. So originally, what we now know as BRICS today is the hypothesis of Goldman Sachs that says by 2050, these fast-growing emerging economies of the world are going to dominate and become a block of global economic powerhouse. And since that time, in 2001, up until now, the name BRIC, which now later became BRICS, has emerged. And it's gone from the hypothesis of Goldman Sachs to a reality and economic. Maybe can become a political powerhouse someday. We don't know. But that is how the word BRIC came to bear.
So in other words, if additional countries are going to be joining, then they'll keep increasing, or will they be adding those acronyms to BRICS? Before we know it, we have a very long acronym. Or
well, I'm not sure, to be honest, because in terms of forming acronyms from names, the shorter they are, the better. So, well, I think one or two more letters may be added, but I don't see, for example, the 6 new countries, I don't see how they want to put in their names and make it become a bigger name. So it's totally up to the countries what name they want to adopt eventually. They may even want to drop the name BRICS and get another name. It's not impossible. Yeah. So I don't think that will happen in any way that should give us any concern about whether the name will be shorter or longer, because the fact is that they might drop the idea of BRIC completely if they need to add other countries to it. Yeah.
So why was BRICS created, and what is their mission?
Okay, so what really happened was that BRICS was not created, as it were. So it's not like this country thought we need to come together. No, that was not how it started. An investment banking giant says, look, let us develop an investment vehicle based on the performance of the economies of some emerging markets. And with time, as that begins to, come to reality in 2006, one of the presidents of the country said, oh, why not? So what these guys have been saying looks to me that it's real. So why don't we just come together and start talking to ourselves? So that's how what we now know as BRICS today, that's how it started. It took its root from what Goldman Sachs had done there, and so they started talking, as a matter of fact. And the biggest, the most important part of the discussion is around their economics. And don't forget that even when Goldman Sachs was saying this, it was all about the performance of the economy. So their strongest formation right now, as they've had meetings upon meetings, and they are beginning to make it really real and work for all the emerging country economies. The most important purpose right now is to ensure that the interests of emerging economies are represented, and that there is need to witness an emergence of a new international body, that it's not as political as what we currently have in, most of the other ones, like the United Nations itself and the rest of them. So I think even though two of the BRICS countries, China and India, are, represented in the, United Nations permanent seat, but the reality is still that most of the emerging economies are neglected. And these emerging economies, the BRICS in general, they make for about 27 to 28% of the global GDP, 40 to 42% of the global population. That's about 2.9 billion people. So there is no way that set of nations, with all their opportunities and the natural endowment, should not be represented. And I think that is the sentiment I want to assume that is driving the BRICS agenda. And if you ask me, it just makes sense.
Now, what are their key priorities? You actually made mention of EU and all of that. So I'm also going to further ask a question on that. What are their key priorities, and what differentiates BRICS from EU, NATO, AU, and the likes? You actually made mention of the fact that it's not being political. Would you please speak further on their differences and the priorities?
Okay, I think their priorities are on their economy. I think they want to promote solidarity, openness, pragmatism, neutrality, and the interest of the emerging countries generally. And most of those countries are in Asia and Africa, And so they want to foster cooperation among member countries for the development of their economy, improve trade conditions, and remove as many barriers as possible, help in combating natural and economic problems. I mean, for example, they founded the New Development Bank. Also, they want to deal with the issue of financing, make available lines of credit to countries that can help them. And they also want to improve on the use of technology for the growth and development of the economies of the member countries significantly. It does not take away the fact that there could be political innuendos, rather, whether now or later, because we're talking about leaders of countries, individuals, human beings, making policies and decisions for their own countries. And so you cannot also take away the human aspect of things. So the reason they make some choices we can only identify or talk about what they come out to say. What they are not saying, you and I could infer. And so that's why I say, well, we can't take away the fact that there will be a bit of politics, but that it's not been, either talked about or confessed, so to say, right now. Why are they different from Europe? EU, excuse me. So the objectives of EU, it's about countries in Europe. So they are very regional in nature. The BRICS is more diverse with, member countries from 3 different continents, and so Africa, Asia, Europe, and the rest of it. So in terms of the formation, EU is totally different from BRICS. In terms of their objectives, BRICS is more about the interests of emerging economies, and they are mostly, although they are mostly in Asia and Africa, some of them are also in Europe, South America. So they are more diverse in terms of their constitution. They are also, more about the economy, involvement, advancement, and the opportunities available in their country. What are those opportunities? These BRICS nations have diverse natural resources. They have advantage of demographic because they got a lot of young population. Labor cost is very, very low compared to what you see in the developed countries. So how to harness those opportunities rather than just stay while the development countries take advantage. So the BRICS countries want to take advantage of all of their resources and maximize all of their opportunities for the member countries.
Now, what is the environmental? I want us to look at the environmental impact of the BRICS economies and how sustainable is their rise.
I just talked about their natural endowments, and many of them still rely on fossil fuel for energy, and that is a big environmental issue. Now, but at the same time, for these economies to continue to grow, they need to focus on industrialization and generate power, mostly from fossil fuel. So the implication is the environment. So there is, because of the growth rates and economic activities, the direct impact is on the environment. So significant environmental implication because of the rising, commerce. But the good thing is that they are aware of this. They have learned from the development country. They've seen what happened in Europe. They've seen what happened in America. So they have decided, taking, proactive measures to ensure that they introduce and make laws for greenhouse issues, activities that protect the environment, reduction of carbon print, making sure that there is renewable energy. Even though there is a lot of natural resources, there's still reliance on fossil fuels. They are considering also equally, significant amount of renewable energy opportunities available within the country. And putting in place very strict, serious environmental laws. And from what they have done in the last few years, you can see India, China, how they've been able to ensure that they reduce the impact of CO2 in the environment. Clearly, if they continue on that path and continue to also improve on development of human resources and advocacy to save the environment, I think it would be sustainable, over a long period of time from what we have seen so far. I think they take environmental issues very seriously, and they are putting in measures to help them achieve their objective in that regard. So I think it's sustainable. I think they are starting right on time, having learned from the experience of the first and second industrialization.
Thank you so much for that. We'll quickly go on this break and we will be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk, and I've been speaking with Professor Olugbenro Oyekan. He is, basically is the Dean of School, ISM Lagos, and the topic has been the BRICS agenda. So if you're just joining us, there's so much for you to learn as we go further. Thank you once again, Professor, for standing by. It's nice having you once again.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, the 15th BRICS summit was geared towards seeking an alternate world order. They have also invited some other countries that will officially be welcomed in January 2024. What potential is it in developing economies? And now that BRICS money has been unveiled, we say these economies are emerging. But what about the developing economies? What potential is in it for these developing economies?
So, correct. 6 more countries have been invited. There are a lot of advantages, but not without, it's like a coin, not without its disadvantage. And, for every organizations of this nature, the more the members, the more complex the administration of the organization becomes. So I see challenges in alignment of the different interests, because look, these countries coming together are different in terms of their priorities. So they have, similar areas of interest, but they also, because of their diversity, they also have primary interests that may be different. And so there's likely to be conflicts. And so how those conflicts will be handled as time goes on, as the organizations and the operation become more complex, is what we don't know. And there is no way that they will not become political within themselves to start with, whether we like it or not. It's just a very high probability. So, but as to the advantages this association has got for the emerging economies, I think it helps the developing economies to harness their potentials and be better off for it in terms of their economy, the environment, and their people generally. So for me, it's a very welcome development. And you will see that when you look at it, if membership is not based on invitation, so many of the emerging economies would like to be member because it gives them the opportunity to speak as a group, even in the United Nations, and take on their economic power. So most of the natural resources, most of the human resources, most of the growth of global economy, and a lot of potentials are there. So speaking together as one and making policy choices as one helps them to foster their growth and protect the interests of member countries. So I think for development economies, it's a welcome development. It's a great deal of opportunity and ability to translate their potentials into great gain and economic growth. But like I said, the challenges are there. In not too distant future, we'll find out where, complexity of primary interests will start, dealing with the dynamic of things, and I think that's just natural.
Okay, I think you actually saw what I was about to ask. Now, talking about challenges, would you agree that the challenge ahead will not just be who joins the BRICS as a partner, but who holds the key to decisions on policy, positions, and how so will that be?
You have raised a very interesting part of the discussion. Who owns the decision? That is the mistake that other multilateral organizations have been making about, priorities, excessive priorities to some members of the organization over the interests of others. Well, I will hope that they are able to deal with this and be careful not to make some members more powerful than others, even if they do, at least do it in a way that will respect the interests of the other member organizations. Whether they will be watchful and be careful not to allow that happen is what I don't know, because look, you have countries like India, China, and Russia there already. These are global powers on their own, and they will want to exercise their influence, their resources, talk and promote ideas that will be good for their own country. And for example, if Nigeria were a member country or Nigeria had been invited, I don't think that, Nigeria will have such a strong voice as Russia or China, for example. So it's there. It will happen, but I hope that it will not relegate the smaller economies to the back so much that it will become like another, United Nations experience and the rest of the things.
Thank you so much for that. Do you have any final words, sir?
Well, I think that there is no way the BRICS will not include global politics, at some point in time. And I hope that the member countries will understand that that is not their primary objectives. So if the BRICS will be supporting other countries in terms of their economic development or stability of their governance system, I hope they will do well to respect the sovereignty of each of the nations and not meddle in their internal affairs, as we're currently seeing, the situations in Ukraine, in Niger, some part of Africa, So the big member countries need to remember that the smaller member countries are sovereign, and there's limits to what you can dictate and how far you can go with dictating to them. You can't promote your own interests over that of their country. That's what most of the emerging economies have suffered, and it won't be nice to find ourselves in the same position one more time. But I think that the advantage of the BRICS helps the emerging economies to negotiate better, at any global platform. And it's good. It can really work if everybody takes this as seriously as they have all proposed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And to you all there, thank you too for being part of the show. I hope you've been able to learn all about the BRICS agenda. You can always read up on it also to know what's trending and what's happening in the world at large. Until next time, when I come your way again, please enjoy your day. Bye for now.